you might just bang, you might just fall for somebody, and then like it feels like this feels right. If you get sloppy drunk, on the other hand, and you end up in bed, and then you say, "Good morning, Frank," and his name is Danny, then it's probably not going to work out.
Did you push record?
Thanks so much for tuning in to Second Act TV. Today I'm happy to welcome Robert Manni back to Second Act. Robert, thanks so much for joining me.
Always a pleasure, Silka. Thank you for having me.
I'm always love having you on, especially for conversations like we're about to have. Robert, of course, is one of our featured content experts when it comes to all things dating and what women need to know, what men wish women knew, etc., etc. He's the author of The Guy's Guide to Love and the host of Guy's Guy Radio right here in LA on KCAA every Wednesday. And you're going to like this discussion today. I sent you an article about sex on the first date. And the reason I did that, I was researching that, there is Google put out a report of their most searched terms, over the past year. Some very interesting stuff. But one of the top ones is it okay to have sex on the first date? Of course, everything written on that is geared to the younger crowd. So I thought this would be a fun discussion for our age group. Is this antiquated or not? Talk about that.
Okay, it's a great topic and it's a timeless topic. So regardless if you're 25 or 50 plus, I think it's still a relevant issue. Nowadays with the hookup culture, a lot of people think, oh, sex on the first date, it's not a big thing. And, to me, the whole issue is this. We're all adults, and there's always the right time between two people to have sex. And that could be the first date. It could be the 10th date. It's up to you to determine if you want to hang in there for 10 dates or not, or when it's all about when it feels right for the two individuals having a shared individual experience. And as we know, every time people get together, a man and a woman or, whatever, same sex, it doesn't matter. There's an individual experience that's unique. Mm-hmm. And so the people who are participating in that have to determine when it's right to have sex. So I don't think there's any set rule about it. I think you would be well advised, as I can speak from a man's perspective, to women as to what to look out for if you have sex on the first date. I can't speak for women because I'm not a woman. But how do you want to proceed?
Well, what I find interesting, Robert, one is that we are at 50 or over, still having these conversations. That's interesting, but yes, we are. And I get comments on the channel all the time. What isn't right? What should we expect? Men, all they want is sex. I mean, it's a big issue, and I guess it's the expectations, since you're talking from the man's perspective, what do men think? Is it, you don't buy the cow if they get the milk for free? Are you ruining your relationship or your chance at a long-term relationship by, having sex on the first date? Do we really need to still think about that?
I think it's up to the individuals. I'm speaking as a guy who dated for a long time and has been happily married for a number of years now. When a guy asks a woman out or a woman asks a guy out and they decide to go out, when the guy has committed to going out, besides hanging out, but actually a date, that means you can pretty much put your money on the fact that he wants to have sex with you at some point, that sex would be welcome. If you want to have sex with him and you want to do it on the first date, that's up to you. I think it would be very rare that the guy would turn that down. It could happen. But men are wired visually. They're wired to their, through their, what, in a lot of ways. And even if it's a conscious, mindful guy who's has emotional intelligence and is a gentleman and knows who he is, yeah, they're sexual. And if it's a woman that he's attracted to, and he hasn't had sex with her, and it's always an ultimate goal at some point to share intimacy, if that can happen on the first date, well, why delay it?
Yeah. Well, and like in that article I sent you, but it was funny. They said, one of the reasons is, well, you figure out if you actually have chemistry. Might as well find out now, especially when we're this old. Why go along and find out you don't want to sleep with this person? But then again, it could be the worst sex because you don't know each other. And you said that you disagreed with her perspective, and I'm really interested in hearing what you disagreed with.
Well, with all due respect, the sex could, because the person who wrote the article is a female,
Right.
and she's writing in a men's magazine, and I don't know if from what I got out of the article, she was making some generalizations about men that they don't necessarily want to have sex on the first date, and I would say that would be the exception, not the norm. And beyond that, she lists, she says it's up for basically it's up for discussion, which is true. Now, sex on the first date could be terrible. It could be great. Who knows? Every time we have a shared intimacy with somebody for the first time, or even the first couple of times, we're getting to know each other, and it could be gangbusters right from the start, or it could be, a disaster. And it doesn't mean, even if it's great the first time, it might not get any better. And if it's bad the first time, it could get a lot better. And it's really about getting, the exchange of energy and getting to know somebody for who they are, because it's not, you want to get past the point where it's just some type of carnal animal act where we're, humans are animal in a lot of ways. And you want to make it about an intimacy and emotion and sharing. And so can you pull that all off on the first date? Probably not, but maybe you can make a real quick connection, and you can be mature enough and attracted to each other enough to keep it going from there. I think the risk for women is that when the guy has a sex, he might think, oh, I'm probably not the first guy she had sex with on the first date, and if she's over 50, wow, maybe this has been, how many guys has she done this with? And the guy may start to wonder, is that fair or not? No, but that's just human nature to go through that thought process.
Yeah.
So, that's a chance. Now, it could work out great.
Well, I was just going to ask you about that. What kind of a message are you sending? Of course, women always overthink everything, but that is a message I think that you're sending. The other thing is, I don't care how old you are. I think this will hold true for women just because of our biology, that we're always going to attach more emotion to the act of sex than a man will, just because of that oxytocin. John Gray, who you've had on your show as well, explains that really well. That we, with that oxytocin release, bad sex or not, we want to connect. There's a connection where men are done, and when that happens on a first date, I think that sets us up for potential issues that maybe aren't necessary to create that early. What do you say about that?
I think it's a fair comment. I think I can't speak again for women, but I think a lot of guys, and if they have emotional intelligence and maturity, they know they can compartmentalize sex if necessary, and or they may, but that's not necessarily what they want to do. So I think they could have sex on the first date, and it could work long term, and it may not work long term. And I don't think, if it's a mature guy, that it's going to be because the woman agreed to have sex with him the first time or initiated, whatever. So I think it's up to the individuals. But, for a woman, I think you've got to be aware that guys seem to be able to compartmentalize it and take the emotion out of it sometimes. I'm not saying this is a good thing, but a guy could just want to, have sex. And if you're somebody he's attracted to and it's the first time and there's some mystery there, and it's like, wow, this is great, and I'm going to get laid tonight. It's like, that's pretty good. So you got to be aware of that. That's some of the thinking that might be going on under the surface. However, if the guy's really cool, he might be able to, hey, let's, we did it, and let's keep going, and let's make it better and better. Now we got the elephant out of the room, if you will, in terms of, because, the guy in most cases is going to be thinking about sex until the first time they have sex, and then he's going to be thinking about it in different ways. So it's always, when you're dealing with guys, they're sometimes their loins get in the way of their mind, if you will.
Well, and I think for women, it's what meaning do we attach to this, and why are we doing it? And I had a comment from a viewer several actually, but just this comes up because it just was yesterday, was, I'm so tired of going on dates and all the men want is sex. Why don't you do a video on how to get through the wolves, weed out the wolves? That's kind of a good title.
Well, the men, it's how the man behaves. All the men, and I'll say there are some exceptions, they're all going to want to have sex. Let's just, that's the vast majority. So how they behave. Now, you could want to have sex, but that doesn't mean you make it like front and center at all times from the moment you say hello and take your mask off, if you will. That's ridiculous. That's not the right, that is a wolf. That's not the right type of guy, probably, unless you don't care and you're like, hey, he's hot. I want to go to bed with him. And then you do what you do. You're an adult. It's your choice. But, you can't blame guys for being guys. It's how they behave. Not every man is the same. They might be made the same way biologically, but emotionally they're all going to be different. And they're cool guys who could say, "Hey, we waited a while. I can't, in my own personal experience, I've had sex on the first date, and I've had sex on like the fifth or sixth date, and it was fine. It's usually about 3 dates, and that's cool, and that's old school. I get it." But I'm not talking about hooking up. If you want to hook up, you can hook up. But this is about if you want to develop a potential of a relationship, you have to take a little time. You can't make it just front and center. That's all there is. Because I know women are a lot like, people are people. Everybody's equal. But I think the emotional component is still a little bit broader, bigger, if you will, for the ladies than for the guys. And again, I don't want to speak for women because things are changing and they're always changing, and that's cool. But I can speak for guys, for the majority. I can't speak for every guy.
Yeah. Well, I think, again, in the question, when to have sex, is it too soon? Is it okay on the first date? You're right. I mean, to sum this up, we're adults. We can all do whatever we want. There's no judgment there. That's up to you. What your expectations are associated with it, that's really what you have to figure out. And I know for me, in my dating history, if I had sex early on or on a first date, I wrote that relationship off. And I don't know whether that's because of society. In my mind, that wasn't going to be a relationship material either. So maybe I'm even sexist.
Yeah. Or it could turn into a situation where the sex is what's driving the relationship. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it depends what. I think getting involved with anybody, any new relationship or just encounter with somebody, you have to determine, what do I want, what do I have to offer, and what can we share, and stick to your guns, and be flexible, because sometimes you might just bang, you might just fall for somebody, and then like it feels like this feels right. If you get sloppy drunk, on the other hand, and you end up in bed, and then you say, "Good morning, Frank," and his name is Danny, then it's probably not going to work out.
Oh, that's funny. Well, the bottom line, sex is a good thing. When you have it,
Absolutely.
it's, we're all adults.
But it comes with, it's not, although men can a lot of men can compartmentalize it, and a lot of women, I'm sure, can also nowadays, but there is still a component where you're exchanging energy, and you want to make it you want to make it something special. If it's just disposable and you're just getting off or something, fine, if that's how you want to do it. But if you want to have a long-term relationship, you're going to have to probably build beyond that. So I think that becomes a factor in determining when is the right time to have sex. And I also think, because everybody's an individual, and every two people, they have a different type of chemistry together, that if you're a guy, it might be, oh, I have sex with her on the second date and it was great, and then somebody else, I had sex on the fifth date and the relationship was even better, and somebody you had sex with on the first date was even better than that, relationship wise. So there's no set rules, but there are some words of caution, particularly for the ladies. And the ladies you were talking about, Silka, who say, hey, all the guys, all they think about is sex. Well, keep that in mind then before you give it up.
Yeah.
Unless you feel like giving it up.
Yeah. Exactly.
Big girl. Put on the big girl pants.
I mean, there are no real answers to it, and we're certainly at the end of our segment now. One thing that COVID has done is slow that down a little bit. I personally think it's better to wait. That's my personal opinion, no judgment. Anything that you want to add, Robert, on this segment before we close out?
I just think for the ladies, they just have to be themselves, and if they're really interested in the guy and they think that, oh, if I have sex with him, then I'll keep him around. You might keep him if it's not right. You might keep him around for sex, and if that's what you want, fine. But if you want to develop a relationship, you kind of have to be a bit more mindful about managing the situation.
Yeah.
And qualifying who the guy is. Sorry.
Right. No, exactly. Well, and there's other ways to either hurt or harm or sabotage, your relationships that just get started on the first date. And I want to hold you over and talk about that. I know you said you had some epiphany on that, and I can't wait to hear it. So we'll see you on our next segment of Second Act TV.
Okay. Thank you, Silke. Thanks, everybody.
If you have an idea for a topic you'd like to have us cover, please visit our website, secondact.tv. On our homepage, we have a little red suggestion box in the upper right-hand corner. Just click on that, send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.